Hi, everyone. My name is Kathe Petchel, and I am one of the members of the client relations team at HINGE Advisors. And I am so excited to share with you today our 2022 SHIFT Conference recap, the top takeaways and strategies. And it's just a quick bullet points today on all of the speakers and some of the top takeaways and strategies we learned last week. We were in Park City, Utah. Absolutely gorgeous. It snowed on and off the whole time. And oh gosh, our team, particularly Meredith Douglas and Marissa Webster, just knocked it out of the park in terms of hospitality. Thank you so much for all the wonderful comments from everyone that attended. And stay tuned till the end of the conversation, and I will tell you where we're going next year. And maybe mark your calendars because quite a few people did not make the cut in terms of we sold out by July this year. So mark your calendars. So today we have a really quick agenda, but a lot of content. So I'm going to give you a little overview about what happened at SHIFT and how awesome the event was. And then we had so many sessions, top strategies from our main stage sessions, and then quite a few breakout takeaway sessions. Spectacular group of speakers this year. Quite a few of our hingers. We have doubled our team in the last 12 months. So it was awesome to give so many of my teammates an opportunity to shine. We just have a spectacular team. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about everything we learned. So what happened at SHIFT Park City? First of all, these are, we had a great photographer. And so all of the pictures that we have are straight from, almost all of them straight from our SHIFT conference. We were in Utah. Absolutely gorgeous. We had about 350 childcare business owners, operators, and stakeholders from 36 states and 4 different countries, including New Zealand, which was really cool. We had 3 keynotes. They were amazing. I'm going to give you takeaways from those. 4 main stage speakers, 17 panelists, and 15 breakout speakers all shared content. And I would say one of my takeaways was that the content was, and the theme was so consistent. We just seemed to all be on the same page on being opportunistic and positive about where our industry is going and the contributions we can make individually and collectively. Cocktail hours are always amazing with any Hinge or SHIFT event. No surprise, again, this year, the venue was spectacular, though, because we were outside in a tent with extra space inside as well. It was plenty warm because we had so many people. The food was amazing. Shout out for the cheese fondue, a couple different types, and also gourmet s'mores around the campfire. So amazing as usual. And I think everyone had a really good time. If you didn't, I want to talk to you because it was amazing. Every morning there was yoga offered at the hotel. We were at the Stein Eriksen Lodge, which is a 5-star hotel. Just spectacular, just like a rambling area, just beautiful set in snowy mountains. So just big property. Lunchtime, one of the days we had massages, and then we are known for our gifts that we give staff or we give attendees. And this year we did an awesome water bottle again. And so many times people misplace their water bottles. So our event team had a laser engraver come in and engrave everyone's water bottle if they wanted it. Mine just says KP because there's 2 Kathys on our team, Kathy Ligon, who's our CEO and founder. My name's Kathe Petchel, but they call me KP. Oh, and then awesome book signing one evening and axe throwing, outside axe throwing in the snow. It was super fun. Here's a few pictures. This is a upper left picture of the laser engraving. Upper right, some of our team in a ski lift photo op. And then massages and an ice sculpture. I think we just do it right. And I'm so glad everyone had such great comments. So now we're going to get to the business part, top strategies from the main stage sessions. So Kathe Ligon was up first. Kathe Ligon's our CEO and founder, and she started us off with basic childcare industry updates. Each session was probably 45 minutes to an hour. 1 or 2 sessions were a little bit longer. I've chosen to just give you 3 bullet points from each session because we only have an hour. If you have questions about anything or want more information about particular sessions, you may email me. My name is Kathe Petchel, and my email is kpetchel, Petchel, @hingeadvisors.com. And I can point you in the right direction or send you slides. So Kathe's updates, most childcare centers have recovered enrollment to pre-COVID levels, except when hiring is still a challenge. And so many owners and groups are reporting that there's still artificial wait lists. I know Kathe did an article for Childcare Exchange magazine, and I mean, just consistently throughout, the CEOs were commenting that they could have lots more enrollment if only they could find the staff. And later we'll talk about some strategies for finding staff and getting them trained quickly. Another key takeaway Kathe had was that owners should continue to raise tuition rates to keep up with rising labor costs. That's kind of a common sense, but we also have to factor in that the grants have stopped or will be stopping soon. And so that adds a further complication. Our staff have been used to getting either bonuses or higher pay. So we want to make sure that we're really making sure that tuition rates are high enough to sustain. And then staffing is still the biggest challenge overall nationally, actually worldwide, because I was recently on a webinar for the World Forum and heard that from other countries as well. Phil Vaccaro from EY Parthenon did another amazing main stage talk about investment in the early childhood industry. He broke it up really interestingly: headwinds, things that are going really well, and then tailwinds, things that are more negative or challenging. And so I'll start with headwinds. And I love to give you statistics when I can. And his group tracks our industry incredibly well. So headwinds, 30% of programs have raised tuition rates by over 5%. I'm hearing that across the board. I'm also hearing people say they're raising it over 5% several times in the year, which we applaud. And I think the trick on that is to make sure that the parents know a lot of the tuition rate increases go straight to staff or staff training and development. Tailwinds, the mom and pop programs, according to Phil, took a big hit. In America, we have about 13,000 fewer independent childcare centers after COVID. And interesting, again, talking about staffing, the average pay for childcare workers has increased by 14%. So again, that goes without saying that the tuition rates need to be keeping up with the labor costs. But there are fewer applicants. And we know a couple reasons why. Travis Steba from Indeed helped us understand that with so many baby boomers retiring during COVID and about 2 million deaths due to COVID or COVID-related issues, the workforce is fewer, and we're starting to have the Gen Zers emerge into our workforce, which I'll talk about in another minute. One of my favorite new things we did this year were the leadership sprints. Tom Wood is on our team, and he's an executive coach, many, many years experience, started out in the banking industry and just personality plus, and very, very collaborative with our team. He's been an amazing addition to our team this year. And Tom did each morning for about 15 or 20 minutes, a leadership sprint. And each day he did something different. My favorite day was the curiosity day, about being curious about yourself. But he's actually, and I can show you, he's offering this to anyone that would be interested in building your team's confidence and capabilities. Investing in your people with an 8 or 12 week course. He's just a wealth of knowledge. He's got a library of different topics that he can customize for your particular team. One of his big themes is serve and love, which that kind of reminds me of servant leadership, because it's the same type of idea, is that if we put the customer and our team first, everything else just has a way of working out. And one of my big ahas, actually, our whole HINGE team did a leadership and ethics course with Tom about 7 or 8 months ago. And we talked about, managing ourselves and how we can show up as a great team player. And it went into bringing your A game to work, but your A+ game to home. And I thought that was a big aha for me, thinking about, as entrepreneurs, we typically kind of dig deep and get a little obsessive about work sometimes. And so remembering that why we work and what's our why. And then the Be Curious section that he did a whole 15 or 20 minute sprint on being curious. And a couple of key takeaways were making sure we're asking questions to our teams and then stop and actually actively listening. And instead of answering a question, just pausing and let the person sort of try to work it out themselves with kind of open-ended questions. I have a hard time with that. I want to just solve everybody's problems. So I really appreciated that great reminder. Something else I think we do really well when we do our planning for our SHIFT events is gathering together panel discussions. And so this panel discussion was related to serving our team. And so Kathe Petchel organizes these and invites the particular speakers herself. She wants a collaborative session with all voices heard. So we've got Joe Kirshner, who's CEO of Primrose Schools, a very large and successful franchise. Kristen Waterfield, she was amazing, CEO of the Malvern Schools, 29 locations in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, just a very strong leader. Rhonda Myers, one of my all-time favorites, co-owner of Heartfelt Impressions, 3 locations in Michigan, and then William Ray, 1 location, Ruby's Academy in South Carolina. Rhonda's big takeaway on serving your team was really staying organized and straight. EOS is part of Traction, entrepreneurial operating system, and she particularly likes the people analyzer there. Rhonda and her team at Heartfelt Impressions have been working with a Traction advisor for, I think, about 2 years now, and are having great success keeping the owners on the same page so they can manage their team and dig into their operations in a systematic way. And then another takeaway was training your team to effectively interview. I think that was either Kristen or Joe talking about training your team, your directors and your admins, that, really that high level, by the time you're ready to make a final hiring decision, especially if it's a director or a regional director, you want to make sure that you're the one, or your CEO or someone very capable is making that final decision. And some points were made about it being so meaningful and impactful for the interviewee. When the owner or the CEO of the company actually sits down and welcomes them and does a final interview. And then a referral bonus, and we've all heard of referral bonuses and have been doing them certainly since 2020. But this was a new take on referral bonuses, and I loved it. It was referral bonuses to staff as they recruit new employees, but then not just doing the bonus maybe after the first 30 days when the employee joins the company, but continuing to bonus the referrer, the staff that refer the new person, as long as the new person stays with your company. And I love that because it's going to engage both staff members, but particularly the recruiter, to make sure that new person is properly mentored and maybe going out to lunch with them and building a relationship with them, helping them over all those new first day, first week, first month rough spots. A big highlight this year was, and every year we have an author and do either a book talk and then usually a book signing event. This year was no different. Jennifer Moss wrote the book, The Burnout Epidemic. She's working on another book at the moment, and I think she's published at least 2 others before this one. It was perfect timing with the burnout epidemic because we know so many staff have done the Great Resignation, not just in our industry, but across the country. So the Great Resignation, and then combine that with quiet quitting, which is staff being happy to show up for work every day, but not really giving their best and their A game. Sort of just, I'll take the paycheck, but I'm not going to do the extra effort. So one of her key points was that we as a country and as an industry certainly have changed. So embracing the facts of where we are instead of resisting them. And I thought that was an excellent point. Mental health should be a big part of our support for our staff. That will help alleviate the Great Resignation, which, by the way, the research I've read recently says the Great Resignation is definitely cooling. So I think we are making headway. Could very well have to do with the economy, possible recession, interest rates rising, and so on. But other, that's making sure we really understand the needs of our staff, particularly mental health, is a way to increase our retention rates. And this is hard for me too. And I know for a lot of you as well, because we sort of dug in and just getting the job done. But leaders should model self-care. I think that's hard. So give me your ideas on that. Happy to hear about that in the chat. And by the way, we have so many people registered for this particular webinar that we have 2 people on our team managing the chat, uploading links and whatnot if you're asking for things, and also just managing to make sure we're sticking to our time schedule. I think I'm in good time right now, though. One of my all-time favorite speakers is Thad Joyner. I'm personally close friends with Thad. He is hilarious, completely unfiltered, and always brings a different point of view. And I think that's one of the big points of a main stage speaker or a good speaker in general, to make us kind of flip our brain around a little bit and look at things from someone else's point of view. As always, he knocked it out of the park. So a couple of his nuggets were being first. So being first in your market, being first to recruit the staff members. He actually kind of went out on a limb and said, double everybody's pay. Do whatever it takes to get the staff members that will make your program the best it can be. So be first and be attractive. And that is a multi-site childcare owner, twice over, has sold both groups of childcare centers. And at the moment, but stay tuned, I'm sure he'll change it up and surprise us. But at the moment, he is CEO and founder of Better Beans Branding. So he is all about what your look is. Your being attractive is being professional with your appearance, but it's also being really warm and welcoming and reflecting your brand at all times. So from the time a parent or a potential staff member walks into your building to all of your marketing paraphernalia and to yard signs and so on. So being first, so he's pretty aggressive in terms of, he told some funny stories about putting signs in competitors' yards and, offering, a lot of money for families to enroll at his school. So he's a maverick for sure and very entertaining. And then another really common sense, and I thought this was, surprising. Directors should be trained intensely for a minimum of 3 months before they take over a program. And you're probably thinking what I'm thinking, we got to throw them in at the desk. We got to throw a teacher in a classroom, and we just can't do that. It just doesn't work. And we know that. But when you get a director, even if they're from another location or another company, it's still a really good idea to slow down to speed up, basically. Let those directors have a minimum of 3 months. His particular company he just sold had a massive 3-ring binder that was an excellent training program that came from the fast food industry. His business partner, Nielsen Gupta, also did. And so they bring a lot of really cool insights from another industry. And I love that. So labor costs and how to manage labor costs with the hourly employees, very similar to some of the struggles we have. So that's awesome. And then everyone on your team should have a piece of the action. Again, that's a little counterintuitive. We think, oh my gosh, I'm already paying them a lot. I'm paying these new staff members. They're calling out. They want a request for time off. but giving everyone a piece of the action. He's very intent on making sure that P&Ls are viewed by the appropriate stakeholders, the team, or at least the directors. Your number one goal is to dominate your market. Pay what you need to pay to retain the very best teachers, directors, regional directors, enrollment specialists, and so on. One of his big tips on recession proofing, and he had 10. I'm not giving you all of them because this is a recap, but one of my favorites, actually two of my favorites, were stockpiling cash, so that, and particularly he was talking about stockpiling cash so that if someone in your area or an area that you would like to have a business in goes under or closes for whatever reason, you're able to quickly come in and grow your company. And then also knowing your break-even number. Very important. We're going to talk in a minute about minimally being 70% full with FTEs, full-time equivalents, but knowing your break-even number is essential to being safe for recession. And I'm hoping my gals, I'm not able to see the chat right now, so I'm hoping my gals are managing the chat or will interrupt me if there's questions. Maybe we're just going to wait till the end, and that's fine too. Next, we had a panel discussion. This was really interesting. This is a new initiative Kathe Legan has developed. It's Success Services, and we're developing strategic partnerships. So in particular, the strategic partnerships in this session we talked about were Michigan GSRP. So it's a recipients for different funding in Michigan. They're benefiting from funded QuickBooks cleanup and training. So the funding is free. It's managed by a former admin from one of our larger childcare companies. And she was actually one of our speakers as well. And while the funding is free, accountability is very time consuming. So the philosophy behind this is that we want owner operators to operate. And but we also don't want you to turn down funds that you deserve and funds that will help you be the best you can be as an owner operator. So this group is, and it's Kristen Mailer and Zach Mailer are launching this with GSRP at the moment. And you can see the slide there. Amy Maxwell from Heartfelt Impressions, Rhonda Meyer's partner, also spoke. So we're talking about really intentionally making sure that your QuickBooks is cleaned up and you're fully trained so that you're getting funding like this. Still a good idea to do it anyway, which is the second bullet point. In 2023, January 2023, Kristen and Zach will be opening this opportunity up to a very small number of owners. I actually did it last summer with Kristen and Zach, and I've had my school 38 years, so my chart of accounts was a little messy. They just cleaned it right up for me. So it was awesome. I can tell you, they're great to work with. And then Amy Maxwell from Heartfelt Impressions has been working with this initiative since it started last summer. And what she's saying is it allows her team to focus on operations and including hiring and staff development, which is really key right now so that we can enroll rather than the financial diligence. And we're talking specifically QuickBooks. I mean, obviously, they're still very diligent on collecting the tuition dollars and, accounts payable and whatnot. We had two excellent speakers talking about success. This is Radha Mohan from ECEC talking about successful models in state funding initiatives, ECEC. It's an early childcare consortium based in Washington, D.C., and she is a wealth of knowledge. And her gal, Kathleen, came along, and they were wonderful speakers. The bottom line is if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. So when there's funding, make sure that you're participating in it. And when you're asked for things like cost modeling or questions that can help the legislators or even licensing make decisions, you want to make sure that you're supporting it and speaking up. She mentioned that as few as 10 like-minded owners can make a difference when working together to advocate and educate state lawmakers. Same thing goes with licensing and also the general public. So many times our families really don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And I definitely don't think licensing understands what goes on behind the scenes for us as owners. And then the ECEC calls are on Wednesdays. It's actually a really large group funded by some of the larger childcare centers. But on Wednesdays, and it's only once a month now, they run a call, and it's awesome because and I usually do them almost every other call or every call. They're going to give you information about and toolboxes, how you can meet with your legislator or sample letters that you can send out for your parents to send to a lobbyist or a lawmaker. They're very, very well positioned and very articulate, super knowledgeable. So highly recommend. And then another huge takeaway is that if you're not in your state association, you should be. If you don't have one, consider starting one. Again, as few as 10 owners. Try to get them throughout your state to represent the different geographical areas. But in general, some really strong state associations would be Georgia, the Georgia Child Care Association, California, CEQUAL, which is Californians for Quality Early Learning, and then Colorado Association, also really strong. Different states are doing really, really innovative initiatives. I would highlight Washington State and New Mexico as two. Feel free to shoot me an email and I can get you in touch with hopefully the right people if you've got more questions on that. This is one of my my presentations. I did intentional sizzle as a competitive advantage. This was a main stage presentation. It was so much fun to create because I got to kind of think outside of the box. What are the really cool things we're doing? Kathy Ligon had invented the term sizzle. And so last year I did content on the 10 ways to add value to your business, whether you're thinking about selling, which we do very well for you, or you're thinking about growing or just being the best you can be. So sizzle is a term of what's special, what is a unique selling point for your company. So, and examples would be, computer lab. That's kind of old school now. Outdoor classrooms, very trendy and relevant. Warming huts for cool areas. If you're in Minnesota or New Hampshire, that's really cool. I actually have a slide on that. Sorry, I got a little tiny bit of a cold in Utah. And so then I added the word intentional, like what are the things we can do that we're really like, I am going to add this sizzle. It's intentional. I'm going to invest in it and explain to parents why it's relevant and super important to have. So another point is zig when they zag. I learned this from Thad Joyner last year on his main stage presentation. Zig when they zag really just talks about doing something different than your competitors. So if they're closing early, you stay open late. If they're offering certain bonuses, you do something different, double them, do something completely different. If parents are wanting a certain initiative, really think about it. And especially if your competitors are not doing it, that's such a gift. One of my favorite books is A Complaint is a Gift. And so when parents are, being sort of little pickles and, stirring the pot, taking that moment to zig when they zag. Parents that give us feedback really just want us to do better. I highlighted a school in New Zealand called New Shoots. Michelle Pratt is the owner. She has 19 locations. She teams with her daughter, who's an architect. If you have a minute, go ahead and Google New Shoots New Zealand for some inspiration. She's also involved with inspirement.co. Great inspiration. It's pictures. You can go in and do a free account for, I think it's 30 days, and then join the website and share content I think it's $10 a month. It's very reasonable. I highly recommend that as well. And then I did I'm not going to do this today. No one will ever see it again, but I shared a video of me doing driving school at the BMW driving school in South Carolina. Every year we meet as a team and do strategic planning. And this year, one of our teaming events, and we do different things. A couple of years ago, we went to Clemson University and did really neat teaming, and people observed us and, helped us kind of process how we did as a team. Who's the person talking? Who's the person listening? Who's the person that, has the initiative? Who stands back and processes the whole problem? And, of course, the idea is, how do we team well? The first activity was supposed to be us watching them create on the assembly line an actual BMW car. That section of the factory was closed for the day, unfortunately. So instead, we had some education, and then we did race courses. Basically, we got to drive 3 different types of BMWs, and we did like over land and through water and halfway up a cliff. We did chasing each other, kind of like a rat race. It was really fun. And I shared a video of me driving and my teammate, Marissa, who's on this call right now, coaching me and keeping me calm. And, and the idea was, how do we work together as a team? If someone's in the driver's seat, how important is that person sitting next to you to make sure that you're successful? And in BMW's case, make sure I didn't hurt anyone, because I was terrified. And then the other intentional sizzle is understanding our staff and the fact that there are chronic mental health issues. Lots of staff have, not just one particular age group, all of them, although I did highlight Generation Z quite a bit. One idea is to just consider softening your environment. This is a really cool book. It's called Hygge. I talked about the World Happiness Report, really interesting reading. And either Denmark or Finland are almost always 1 and 2, neck and neck. And think about where they're located, how dark it is this time of the year. And so they do lots of really soothing, cozy activities. One of the things this book says is, when all else fails, there's always cake, as in dessert. But other things would be lighting, being together, talking about gratitude. I know this time of the year, we do a lot of gratitude activities with our staff, and then just creating a culture of harmony. No matter what, we're going to leave it at the door, or no matter what, here's how we're going to plan to address conflict. So this is a recommended book that I would recommend. We went to another panel discussion. Essential elements of a childcare purchase. This was amazing. Here's our team. Look how fun we are. This was the advisors on our team, the ones that actually help when you're ready to sell. They do all the heavy lifting, along with our gal, Carrie Pergerson, Marissa Webster, who does the OMs. She creates your story. It's always beautiful to show you in the best light possible. And then we have 2 amazing financial analysts. So a couple key points from this takeaway, this panel discussion, were having your operations system in excellent order before you think about selling. Great strategy anyway, but with so many new platforms coming up, and I'm a 3-site owner myself, it gets a little confusing. So get your operations straight, make sure your operations manuals, or hopefully they're maybe digital now, but everything is in place. How's your hiring? How's your training? What are all your strategies? As simple as possible, but be able to, especially if you've got multi-sites, 9 or 10 sites would be considered a platform. That's going to be even more attractive to a lot of buyers. Be diligent about keeping track of your financial data, your receipts, and so on. Very organized, super important. And then knowing where you can locate information, having it, boxed and labeled really well. That's going to pay big dividends, because the last thing you want is to be stressed out about finding a lease for one of your buildings right when you're ready to sell. Be sure you understand your financial statements, and don't be afraid to ask. We can't all be good at everything, and these guys are good at the financial part. I feel like I'm better at the people part of the operations. Pick pick an area that you love and be great at that, and then hire someone to be great at the other areas. And then every process is different. Our team has an unbelievable success rate. I think it's over 95% of closing transactions. We are very customized. We work with the seller and we negotiate because we have so many wonderful buyers. We're going to help matchmake for you, but you're in the driver's seat. So if you are interested or thinking about selling your school, you could email me and I'll put you in touch with the right person. Again, every process is different, but the depth and breadth of our particular team will support you. There's going to be a couple roadblocks for sure, but we're going to get you through it. Shout out to Carrie Pergerson, who is amazing with soothing everyone. As I said, we did multiple breakaway sessions, so I'm going to run through the takeaways briefly. Jason Russell has been a speaker for us multiple times. We are so happy to welcome him back. His wife, Kelly Russell, has multiple schools, I think at least 5, I might be wrong, might be more than that, in Michigan. Jason's a former Secret Service agent, worked at the White House, so super impressive, but also super impressive with his knowledge. He talked about crisis versus emergency. Your crisis plan is really an emergency plan. Make sure you have both. I would reference you to his website. You can email me if you want me to link you with it or do an introduction, but his website's great. And then it's not if, but when something unfortunate will happen. Hopefully it's not anything too dramatic, any type of violence, but there's things do happen. People are a little crazy right now in terms of on edge. So just expect it, prepare for it, and be grateful when it doesn't happen, but definitely having the plans. Don't minimize when something happens, don't minimize it, and don't under communicate to downplay a situation, just stick to the facts. I won't begin to tell you how to do this, but he would be a good reference. There's also several other really good companies, depending on what the situation is. But protecting your reputation during a crisis, it could be a great opportunity to really shine. Document everything. I mean, from the get-go, dates, times, who the person spoke with, what was said, and so on. Don't explain. Explaining gives unnecessary information, just basic statements, and avoiding media content. You definitely want to have someone outside of your company check on any words or any statements you're giving, any letters you're sending to parents, anything you're doing with the media. You want to make sure you're very well protected. Words matter, and making sure that you do a really careful job to keep yourself safe from any liability risk that you possibly can. Great idea. Thank you, Jason, again, for being with us this year. Charlie Bonello from Vivi, super cool. Check out his website. It's really nice. Diversification and collaboration. His childcare group, Vivi, grew tremendously during COVID. And what he did instead of, because so many people were not sending their children to childcare, or they're working from home and using childcare a bit less. He's based in Manhattan, but he's now leveraged and grown to other areas. He leveraged corporate relationships to add sick childcare. He even had teachers going into people's homes for childcare so that the families could work. He organized before and after care. Again, just really grew tremendously during COVID. And then multiple large summer programs. One of his secret sauces was asking employers to largely fund the upfitting of the buildings, facilities, or classrooms, and then negotiating how to work with the employees at that particular company. So thank you, Charlie. I actually got to sit in on his session. It was great. I think we had 91 people in the room. It was only supposed to have 80. Rachel Sapala, one of my good friends, perky, very capable, 5 locations in Montana. She's exploding her empire, and she wanted to come and talk to us about it. She talked a lot about building her bench, really growing your team before you actually need them. Always be looking for growth opportunities all the time. keeping your ear to the ground, having multiple sources for growth opportunities. We can totally help you with that. In fact, I talked to her about that when we were together. And then a little bit outside of the box, although this group is so savvy, probably not for all of you, having virtual assistants to help you. She has a virtual assistant that's her personal assistant, and I think she's based in the Philippines. That's really become a cottage industry during COVID. And then growing your C-suite, your CEO group. That's how you're going to be ready to really grow and explode your empire. We welcomed Brian and Carol Dupre to speak to us about secrets of dominating your market. They have 5 locations, and they work really hard to be competitive. One of Brian's quotes was, "Dominate to be a warrior." He likes the idea of not being reactive, obviously promotes being proactive, take charge and look for opportunities to get ahead. So it's sort of like that, always be looking, always be listening. And then EPLI, the insurance, it's an acronym for Employment Practice Liability Insurance. 3 out of 5 employees are sued by former employees each year. And this insurance covers actual and alleged acts of discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination. So thank you, Brian and Carol, for that great information. One of my favorite speakers ever, Travis Steva, he is from Indeed. He actually specializes in the trucking industry and transportation industry, but this was his 4th year speaking for us. He spoke about optimizing your Indeed recruitment practices. There were so many takeaways from this, and there are so many people talking to him afterwards and for the next few days. But job title, when you are on Indeed or any platform, actually, make sure the job title is exactly what your job seeker is searching for. So nothing fancy. It should be childcare worker, childcare teacher, daycare worker, daycare with a space between. We hate those words, daycare, I know, but the people looking for jobs, especially the younger ones, or even maybe the older ones, don't know proper terminology necessarily. So keep it really simple. Simplify your hiring process, less than a week. So they apply, and you got to be Johnny on the spot. As soon as they apply, you're going to look over their resume or their application, and you're going to call and try to get everything answered within a week or less than a week if possible. If you don't, what we know and statistics are showing that they will go somewhere else. They're just not going to wait for us. Another thing he said, which I don't have as a bullet point, but I'll just share, make sure that you don't ask for too much. He did promote the idea of the little tests, the assessments, and they're 3 to 5 minutes. A couple that I personally like are the time management one, and then there's an early childhood one. There's also a leadership one. There's several super short assessments. And then make sure, and then he doesn't think you should ask for a resume right away. You're trying to make a decision. Once you go through the hiring process later, maybe day 5 or day 7, you can get the resume, but make applying for your job really easy. You want to have as many fish with your big net in that ocean to pull them in, and then you're more in the driver's seat. Be sure all required application information is easy to use on a mobile device. They are probably not sitting on a computer, and they're certainly not filling out pencil paper documents. Melissa Bain and Quentin Pyle came to us from South Carolina, super nice, super friendly, and super knowledgeable. Building your business and personal wealth. A couple key points. It takes a village to provide what you need. You need a certified financial planner, a CPA, and an attorney. I loved that takeaway. That's a great little village. Business succession planning is the most overlooked area of business planning. And then enhanced retirement options are a great strategy to retain your staff. I can get you in touch with Melissa and Quentin, or you can Google information about this, but they did a great job, and we always are super happy to have other financial experts join us. I did a breakout session, and my session was actually really well received, mostly because we're all struggling with Gen Z, the Gen Z puzzle, unique qualities at work. My thesis was we've got to figure out how to embrace Generation Z for two reasons. They are certainly entering our workforce, but they're also our parent consumers now. Typically, or currently, they are ages 10 to 24. And this presentation focused on ages 18 to 24 because they're currently new to our workforce and also new to parenting. But remember that 10 to 18, they're coming up, and you want to keep an eye on their experiences right now so that we can really customize and start figuring out how we can work with them effectively when they do enter the job force. There are currently 5 generations in the workplace, from the traditionalists all the way to the Gen Z. So you can have an 80-year-old, which I do at one of my schools. She's amazing, Miss Tina. And then you can have an 18-year-old, which I also do. So it leaves plenty of opportunities to develop a team and work on mentoring, but there's a lot of gaps in those generations. My content shared key milestones for each generation and things that impacted them as they were growing up or as they were becoming adults. And I'm happy to share that presentation with you if you email me. My email will be at the last slide or so. And then I also highlighted Generation Z's losses during COVID. They were enormous. They had, they missed so many joyful milestones, and they also missed some sad milestones, maybe not going to their grandparents' funeral. It was, once I started researching Gen Z, I just became obsessed with really figuring out how to work with them. They report very high levels of stress and anxiety, and they have 3 big fears. The first one is active shooters. Makes perfect sense. The second one is suicide, either them feeling, very desperate, or their friends, and then global warming. And I'm looking at the time, and I think we're doing great. We've got about 10, 12 minutes left. Laurie's a little hot shot on our team, personality plus, little dynamo. She came to Hinge about a year ago, and she was with one of her business partners, Seth Lane. She's talking about how to grow your business through build to suit. She particularly works with people really wanting to grow quickly and pretty aggressively. One point is that childcare deserts, so areas that don't have enough childcare, need really strong operators. She's got a whole team pulled together where they can do build to suit and take care of, finding the land, doing the demographics, doing all the legwork, site selection, working with the developer, working with builders, so that you can focus still on your existing operations. I can put you in touch with Laurie. Her presentation was awesome. As I said, she's a dynamo, very experienced and lovely to work with. Lots of creative options. She's an incredibly good listener, super positive. One of my all-time favorite people. I think she's on this webinar right now, Alita Mechtel. Alita, great picture of Alita there. There she is, just talking up a storm at her breakout session. Alita sold her company very successfully with Hinge. She's based in Minnesota, and now she is incredibly busy with starting a mastermind group. Mastermind groups take your childcare business to the next level. She actually we do pop-ups at our SHIFT event, and she did probably about an hour sample mastermind group session, one of the mornings, 7 a.m. We had, 20 people in the room. She's reminding you that your applications are due this Friday. So if you are interested in joining a mastermind group, she needs to know sooner rather than later, because what she'll do is customize the groups. And she's excellent at this. She's going to look at every person applying and match you with the correct group for what your needs are. And I have her mastermind worksheet with me too. She asked some really tricky questions. And in the session, you couldn't sit by one of your business partners or colleagues. She really tries to individualize for each person in the group so that they're growing themselves professionally as a person and also as a key staff member in the company. So excellent, excellent. But her other takeaways, this was 5 must-haves for massive success when you're selling or as you're growing. She successfully sold her company, and her number one favorite operations sort of trick of the trade is using the book Traction. And I mentioned EOS earlier, which is related to Traction. She is diligent about using Traction. She also has a separate company, Teachers for Tomorrow, TFT, that grew out of the need to find substitute teachers for her programs in Minnesota. So she used Traction to grow that company, and she used Traction to successfully sell her Children of Tomorrow company in Minnesota. She's actively and courageously participating in mastermind groups. She thinks that's what owners should do. And what I love about Alita is she puts her money where her mouth is. She is in several mastermind groups herself. She is also happy to do one-on-one coaching with Hinge. Oops, sorry. Beth Cannon, another one of my all-time favorites. This gal is a perky, just innovator. She actually does not have childcare centers. She works with Stretch and Grow franchise, and she works with so many childcare centers. She became an expert in presenting and helping childcare owners organize and leverage their strategies. So she'll do team retreats and keynote sessions, but she also does something really cool called Manuals to Modules, where she coaches owners or your management team about how to get rid of those 3-ring binders, lose the manuals, and digitize, adding videos and more interesting ways to learn. That's what we're all about. We're early childhood educators. So we want to make sure that our new staff are engaged right away. And she does that beautifully. She also promotes stay interviews. What do you like about our company? Why do you stay? And continually engaging your team to help grow their strengths. She is an expert on Enneagrams, although she did not talk about those this time. Feel free to ask me for her contact information. Chris Burkholder, another one that sold her amazing childcare programs in Ohio. I've since become close personal friends with her. She did a talk on facility enhancements to increase revenue. Consider your classroom environment as a third teacher and look through a different lens. I love this picture our gals put on this slide. There she is. She gave everyone a pair of sunglasses and said, I want you to look at your school and think about it from a different point of view. I love one of her tidbits, which was teachers are always coming in our classrooms, drives me crazy, moving furniture or saying, I don't need this. My kids don't need this. If you're sure you want a piece of equipment, maybe it's the kitchen set, maybe it's, a tree hanging from the ceiling, whatever it is that you've got a reason why you have it. If you are hard and fast in that reason, consider securing it to make it permanent. Teachers come and go, classrooms change, but you want to make sure that you're delivering what you say to the parents you're going to deliver, and that includes your classroom setup. Bringing the outside in with sandboxes, dirt and mud areas. We typically do that outside. Why not bring it in? Living plants and animals make an early childhood environment very inviting for children and teachers. And speaking of teachers, I love this. Make sure your teachers have a comfortable place to sit. Not that we want them sitting all day. We certainly don't. But if they're holding a child or rocking a baby, maybe something, just a cozy area in your classroom where the teacher can not be on her feet all day, particularly if we've got different generations, again, in the workplace, traditionalist 80-year-olds need a place to sit occasionally. There's lots we can do when we're still sitting. Again, not promoting that we sit all day by any means. Of course, Kathe Legan, our all-star CEO, also did a breakout session, and hers was about financial strategies for alignment before you go. So we had our sessions broken into themes. So, and one was go. When you're thinking about selling, what do you need to do? I talked briefly about some strategies the whole team came up with in terms of being organized. Here's a couple more. Produce decision-making information by tracking particular financials weekly, monthly, and annually. So that would have to do with labor costs. It would have to do with FTEs. It would have to do with maybe you're spending more than we're recommending on food or program costs, advertising, really just knowing. And our team, especially our financial analysts, also Kathe, also the advisors, the team is really good at looking at your financials and comparing to other best practices percentages. Reach out and I can put you in touch with someone if you would like to do evaluation, even if it's for a benchmark reason. Quite a few people that are growing do valuations before they grow, so they know where they are and then they know where they're going. Financially healthy preschools are typically at least 70% full. So that's FTE full, not morning preschool. So there's strategies and it's just math. A 3-day and a 2-day child, 3-day full-time, 2-day full-time equals 1 FTE. There's 5 key areas to focus on that if you get these right, you're probably golden. Tuition, making sure you're raising it appropriately, making sure you're collecting it, managing discounts, occupancy, staff costs, rent, and mortgage costs. Those are the big ones. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite parts of SHIFT this year was going to the Dancing Moose Montessori School Center tour. Jen and Russ Duffield and Jen's mom and dad hosted us, and their amazing team. We toured their museum, campus, school, and then had a Utah Source happy hour. It was absolutely amazing. I'm going to share just a couple pictures of her school right now. Absolutely gorgeous setting, Lehi, Utah. She does have 3 locations. This one is located in a museum area. So the children have museum passes that the parents purchase, and they go to the museums regularly, but also the museums come to the school. Maybe they've got a new exhibit and they want to see how the children will react to it. So they utilize a partnership with Dancing Moose. Incredible, absolutely stunning facility and amazing product. Last but not least, stay tuned. Kathe Ligon has once again authored Childcare Information Exchange magazine status report on for-profit childcare. It's going to be an Exchange magazine, January, February edition. I think it comes out maybe around the 10th or so of January. It also includes the top 50 list, the 50 largest childcare centers. I'm really excited about this. I've been asking for this for at least 2 years. The HINGE team is relaunching our in-person Thrive Financial Workshop. Our team, Meredith and Marissa, are working on a location and dates. It will be sometime in 2023. We're thinking maybe May. And then save the date. So many of you did not get in. You were on our wait list this year for our SHIFT conference. Next year, save the date, October 8th to 11th, Charleston Place in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. Actually, our 20th anniversary. And so, as Kathe Ligon says, we're taking it home back to South Carolina to do a huge celebration and just give you all great content. And that concludes my session. If you've got any questions, I know we're right at the top of the hour. We have 1 minute. I'm happy to stay on longer, or again, my email, Kathe Petchel at Hinge Advisors. Also very happy to talk to you offline or email. I'll have our gals let me know if there's any questions, and otherwise I thank you so much for attending today. I'm really excited to get to see so many people and so much appreciate everyone that attended SHIFT last week, and can't wait to connect with everyone going forward for Thrive and SHIFT next year. Thank you so much.